All right, all right. We made it through another week. We're back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We are back. Jason and Tina Marie.
Yes, we made it through another week, guys.
All right. So we are thanking for all of you all for tuning in and for watching. And those who did not tune in live and are viewing us later, we welcome you too.
Yes,
And feel free to always leave a comment, whether you're live or if you're viewing it later. Right?
that's right. And don't forget to like, subscribe. Um, yeah, like and subscribe and share. Yeah, like,
There's
subscribe,
three
and share.
things, guys. Like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe and just hit the share button so you can share this information with other people. So we thank you again for tuning in. And so let's get right to the bulk of it. We want to thank those who have downloaded the free ebook. And so we're not thanking you for us, we're thanking you for you,
You.
right? And so your mate, or your partner or whatever they're called is going to thank you as well. So this is how to awaken the love and romance in your relationship. 8 simple ways
Just
to
8 simple ways. That's all.
just 8 simple ways to rev it back up, right? And so when we first introduced this free ebook that Jason and I put out for you guys, it's to let you know that sometimes the intimacy dies, the connection fades, things get mundane, we get in routines, and so this is just,
Routines.
yes, we just every day the same old thing.
Yeah.
So this is just to help relationships to kind of realize, hey, where are we on the spectrum, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
are we? Are we totally connected? Are we halfway connected? Has
Or
our
do we
intimacy
even know?
Right. So what we did is that we don't download the book for us, download it for you. And one thing about the tools and the information that we're giving you is not just for you to listen to, but it's for you to tune in and to apply it into your lives. So I know we always say, right, knowledge is power. But if you don't apply that knowledge in your life, then what is the point of having it? It's just like not having it.
That's right.
Right?
It's like a book on the shelf. If you don't read it, it's not going to do you any good.
And let me tell you, I'm guilty of that. We have a lot of books on our shelves that we have purchased, and maybe I read the first chapter, or I said my intention was to read it and I didn't. And so the knowledge that was in those books I wasn't getting. And so I was like, you know what? I need to read all these books on my bookshelf. So I started reading books, and it's just amazing what you don't know when you don't know it.
It's amazing what
What's in those
what's,
books?
what,
It's amazing what's in the books.
it's amazing what's in the books, right?
But you think you know, right? So we think we know where our relationship is. We think we know our partner, and that's where most of the problems lie, because people change. And if you're not taking the time to realize how your partner has changed, how their needs have changed, as well as your own, how have I changed? How has my outlook changed? How have I changed from learning through my experience of in being in relationships and even being married? So if we're not taking the time to read, understand, gain more knowledge into who we are, gain more knowledge into how to make our relationships better, then it makes no sense. Why are we wanting things, but we're not willing to do the work for it? So that's like a whole title in itself, right?
For sure.
I think I sent out a thing one time. It's like we know the right things to do, but they're just so hard to do.
They are very difficult
And
to do.
so we have to understand that we have learned about relationships and marriage from our upbringing, right? From our past relationships, from hurt
Good or
and
bad.
trials and tribulations, and not all good, right?
Yeah.
The things that we learned from seeing around us were not all good. We're not the right ways of doing things. And so we learned the best we knew how from those who knew the best we knew how, or how they knew.
Right.
You guys know what I'm saying. So if we want to change the narrative, then we have to do more than we've done before. We have to start being intentional in our relationships. We have to start driving our relationships and making them the way we want them to be. Things just don't happen, right? They happen just, right? Is that
Yeah,
how it goes?
you can ask half of the audience out there. You ask them, how's it going?
Absolutely.
Things are just happening in your relationship. How is that working out for you?
And what we don't realize is that we wake up one day because we haven't been taught how to have good relationships. We have not been taught how to actually drive our relationships and our marriages so they can continue to have fulfillment and happiness, intimacy, connection. We just weren't taught that. And so it's okay that you weren't, but now that you know better, let's do better. Let's make our marriages better.
That's right.
All right.
That's why we're here. So welcome to Friday night, y'all.
All right.
It's
So
like the adult date night here.
yeah, so we want to thank you guys. One, for those who downloaded the book. Two, we want to hope that you're using it and applying it in your relationship. And please give us feedback on things that maybe was not in the book that maybe you wish were in the book.
Right.
Also give us feedback if you are applying these things in your relationship and they have actually worked. We said just humor us, right? Just try some things and let us know if they actually work. Right? Just
Which
you'd
we
be
kinda know.
surprised that how simple things can make a huge impact in your relationship.
Right.
Right?
Well,
Just being grateful.
Right. Oh,
Right?
yeah. Yeah. That helps a lot, right?
Just being grateful. We're so busy.
or giving a nice compliment.
We're taught to always see the negative.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we see, right? Someone does a great job and we see the small mistake they made,
Yeah.
right? Or, we have this huge party and 999 people come
And you worrying about that one person.
and
that
you
didn't
worried
show.
about that one person.
Yeah.
I invited so-so and they didn't come.
Yeah.
Why aren't we grateful for the people that loved you enough and did show up for you
That's
instead of
society.
we've been conditioned to look at the negative things in life first, and we have to change that. We have to be grateful and look at the positive things. So download the book for you, not for us,
That's right.
because we already got it.
We
We got our free copy.
Yep.
Okay, the second thing is that
I want to say hello to Earl and Vicky.
hello, Earl and Vicky. Welcome to another Friday Night Live with you guys.
Yes.
So welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so what's the next thing on the agenda before we get into our thing? Oh, first let us say that this week's episode came out Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And so this week's episode was called, Jason's cue, was called The Right Person is Out There for Me, right? So it doesn't matter if you've been married before. It doesn't matter if you had 500 relationships. It doesn't matter if you have given up. Guess what? The right person is out there for you, but they can't find you until you get yourself together and be ready. So we had a wonderful guest on, Karima and her husband, Anthony, and they were supposed to be here tonight, but unfortunately, sometimes we get time conflicts, right? Conflicts, or, we think one thing and then it's something else. So they were supposed to be on, but then there was a time conflict, so they weren't able to join us tonight.
Right.
But they will be on another night. It just won't be tonight. So we're going to try to work things out with them so that we can have, the right time at the right date in the right place.
wanna give 'em a
Everything
sneak-
is in divine order.
Want to give them a sneak peek of what she said?
Absolutely. So if you guys did not get a chance to listen to this week's episode, this is a little bit of it.
And I say that all the time. So you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. Because even though I had all the success, been at six figures for years doing, I had all the money and all that. And so I didn't attract for my exteriors, my wealth, or a position. I attracted what was in my heart. And I couldn't see that. And then when I started to deal with the fact that I was worth and I was valued, and I started to value myself and know that that I get my identity in Christ, then it allowed me to attract the man that was attracted to the God in me. Because then I saw that part of me, but I couldn't see that because that's what I felt in the inside. But if you look at me on the outside, you like, how are they together? What is it? But in the inside, I was together with the person that I was in the inside, not the person that I exuded on the outside. And something that I talk about through the book is, how do you prepare for your husband? The main thing is, the closer you get to God, the better husband you're going to get.
Come on now.
All
Can
right,
you
all
say
right.
it any clearer?
So
right?
I know I was and still am close to God, because
Yes,
I got me
yes.
a great husband.
There you go. She
So-
hit it on the nail there, baby.
So as we're talking about that, your mate is out there for you. Oftentimes, we try to make relationships more complicated than they need to be. Or we're looking at outside forces. Or we're saying that, of course, we've heard, I keep attracting the same type of people.
Oh, boy.
Or I can't find the right man, or I can't find the right woman, or the right person isn't out there for me. The truth is that you will attract what you are.
Yes.
Okay? And
You can
until
dress it up however you want. You're only going to attract what you are.
And that's in anything.
Yes.
That's in work, that's in relationships, that's in life. And so if you are receiving things that you do not want, if you are receiving people and relationship partners and things that you feel like they're lacking in, then there's something inside of you that you need to evaluate and say, what's going on with me And what do I need to be aware of and maybe change and shift, or become more aware of and become a better version of myself so that I can attract the mate that I want. Oftentimes we want someone with these qualities, but we have none of those qualities to offer them in return. So therefore they're not being attracted to us. That's why we're not getting them. Or we're not ready. And when that person comes along, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. This isn't the person I normally attract, or I'm not feeling them because you ask for something that you're not ready for. So even when it comes to you, you're not going to be able to hold on to it because you're not ready. So there is someone out there for everyone. I truly believe that.
Yes.
And you will get what you truly believe you are, what you desire, and what you truly believe you are worthy of. We cannot get anything more than that. Right. And so also, Jason and I have our course out, Elevate Your Marriage. And so oftentimes we talk to people and we say, people think I'm doing great, and that's great. But there's always more to explore, more to know. We can never get complacent in our relationships or with ourselves, right? We are always trying to be the better version of ourselves. So let's continue to elevate. That's the whole goal of personal growth and relationship growth. Because the more I grow, hopefully, the more Jason grows and the more our relationship grows. All right?
I'm growing. We're growing.
I'm talking about inside, not outside. No, I'm just
I'm growing outside for sure.
So again, guys, if you are out there and you would like for us to give you a shout out, we shout out to everyone and we thank everyone who is tuning in. And so we cannot see you, so just put a little comment and say, hey, Jason,
Give us a
Tina
like,
Marie.
a heart, or something.
Yes,
Say,
so
let
that
me
we
know
can
you-
recognize you. And if we somehow overlook you, we will get you next time.
Sure.
All right. So what is the next thing we need to share?
We need to share the podcast when the podcast comes out.
Okay, so the podcast comes out every Wednesday. It is Loving Beyond the I Do. So, and when we get married, we say I do. So what do we do after that?
That's
this
the
is the
after part.
Happily Ever After.
Yep, this
so
is it.
it's Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. And you can get that anywhere people listen to podcasts.
Yep.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen, you can get it. Or you can go on YouTube and you can look at our beautiful faces go to YouTube and go to Loving Beyond the I Do, or you can go to legendaryrelationship.com. Legendary Relationship on YouTube, and you can subscribe, and then you can scroll down and subscribe to also the podcast, so to let you know when a new one is out. But it comes out every Wednesday, and if you have any feedback or any comments, you can always reach us at info@legendaryrelationship.com. All right?
All right.
All right, so let's get to this week's question. And we did not put it out because we planned on having a guest, but like again, I said, they weren't able to make it. So we got a lot of feedback and a lot of comments and a
Yes,
lot of
we
likes
did.
and a lot of shares on discussing vulnerability. And we were talking about the issue. So the question is, can a relationship work without vulnerability? So if you're out there and you would like to leave a comment or give us your input, by all means, please answer to this week's question. So we like this to be an interactive show, and there are no right answers and there are no wrong answers.
So you
guys
say.
know sometimes I get a little
Yeah.
tongue tied because I get
So
my
you
mind is
say.
working
So
so fast, right?
So there's no right or wrong answers?
There's no right and there's no wrong answers. Why?
Why?
Because no two relationships are the same,
All right, I like that.
right? And
All right.
so what works for you may not work for me, and what works for me may not work for you, but we never know until we try it. All right. So this is this week's question, and we will be taking comments on this question all up until next Friday, right?
Yep.
Until next Friday.
Yep.
So please feel free to answer it. Can a relationship work without vulnerability?
Yeah.
And so one of our Friday Night Lives, we talked about, and Jason, jump in anytime.
Sure.
One of the Friday Night Lives, we talked about being vulnerable and how hard it is. And we would think that as the relationship gets older, it's easier to be vulnerable with your
Sure.
mate.
Yep.
But we found out that that's not true. It's hard to be vulnerable in the beginning because you haven't established that trust.
Right.
And it's even harder once you've been in a relationship so long and you're not continually connecting, then it's hard to be vulnerable because you're not connected. You've had fights and disagreements and words have gotten ugly, or you've shared something with your partner that was very sensitive, very emotional,
brought it
and
up
they
doing
threw
a-
it back in your face and it came back
man.
up.
Yep.
And so now you have vowed, I will never share that information like that. I will protect
I will
myself.
keep it close to the vest.
Right. So we do that in relationships. And for those who are not married, we go, or even get married again, we constantly keep carrying that. We build these walls around our feelings, our emotions, but yet we wonder why we are not experiencing the deeper connection and the love and the respect and the intimacy that we desire, right? So I know for statistics show that vulnerability is a very huge part in a relationship, and I truly believe that.
I do too.
Because when I'm vulnerable and I feel safe enough to express my feelings to Jason, one, feeling safe, knowing that what I share with him, that we have such a connection, and that our intimacy, and we're there for one another, the respect and the love for each other, that just being able to know that if I have a deep issue and I'm really feeling a certain type of way, that I have someone that I can share that with, right?
That's how I feel. I mean, that's because being vulnerable is you're sharing something that you're not comfortable with.
Right.
That someone can really call you out on and really do some damage to you.
Yeah.
Because you're just kind of out there at their mercy, right? So when a person's being vulnerable, and that's why a lot of people don't like to be vulnerable, because you can get hurt.
You don't want to. You can get hurt, and people put it out there, right? Because they don't want to get hurt. They don't even want to think about the option. Well, I'm not even gonna let that out because I don't want to seem weak.
Right.
I don't want to seem, all these things. So we put these preconceived ideas around vulnerability and why we shouldn't be it.
But it's something special when I can be vulnerable with the person that I love.
Right.
And share more and open up. It creates
and
more
not worry,
openness.
Right?
And not worry. That's the whole thing. It's the safe space. I can just be vulnerable in this space and not be judged. And it brings us closer. Just because of the things that we share.
Right. It fosters closeness. It fosters intimacy. It fosters respect. It fosters trust. Right.
That's what vulnerability is.
Exactly.
Right? It's basically trust.
Trusting the person that you're sharing with is not going to let you down. It's not going to make you feel bad because of it.
With my innermost feelings.
Absolutely.
Yes. I'm trusting you with my innermost feelings, things that I don't want to share with anyone else.
Things that even sometimes make me look ugly, right?
Yes.
Make me things that I'm insecure about.
Oh yes.
Right. Things that I don't want other people to know and find out. So we put this facade up. But what I have found out, Vicky didn't respond. I'm looking for Vicky. So what I found out is that people often mistake being vulnerable and sharing intimate things with being shameful, right? And they're two different things.
Right.
They're two different things. So we don't want to share something because it makes us feel ashamed, or it puts us in a position where it makes me feel shameful to even explain it to you or confide in you in it. And so being vulnerable is just trusting the person enough to say, hey, look, this is something about me that I may not like, that I'm working through. Can you help me, right? Can you share in this experience with me without damaging or hurting our relationship, because I have confided and trusted in you?
And that's what it is, confiding and trusting. So, and that's why most people hide their vulnerability.
Yes.
Right?
So what do you think? Do you think a relationship can
survive or be
the question,
fruitful?
Right? Can you have a relationship without being vulnerable?
Can I? Yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Okay.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
It might not be the relationship you want, but yes, you can have that relationship, because I think if you are not vulnerable in your relationship, it's going to be very shallow.
It's going to be superficial.
Very much so. Because you're not yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't get to the depths of who you really are and explain that. So yeah, you'll have a relationship, but it just won't be very fulfilling.
It won't be connected. It won't be true connection. It won't be the deeper, intimate who am I type of person, which means that I'm always holding up my guard. I'm always having my guard up. I have to be careful what I say and what I do, and I'm not letting that guard down because and if I can't be my true self with the person that I have chosen to spend the rest of my life with, then that's a question in itself.
Right.
You have picked this person to be your mate for life. Why is it something that you would not be willing to share something with them? What are you holding on to? What walls have you put up that you feel as though you can't share your true feelings about something, and that person gives you the love, the respect, and the understanding to help you work through things, right? So we often talk about, right, how we meet someone and we show up as somebody different.
All the time.
Right.
Yeah,
So
in the beginning, that's what we do.
Right. We show up as somebody
Right.
totally different, and then they find out that this is not the person who I thought you were.
Well, they fall for the person that's there, right? And then later on, they go, "Man, you are totally different than the person that I met." Right.
And it's funny because I saw this thing on social media where the woman walks in and she walks to her husband, with another woman. She goes, "What happened?" He's like, "You're not the woman I married. I don't even know who you are." Right. And it's so true because we change. And if we're not being vulnerable and connected and intentional in our relationships, we will grow apart. And then we try to find fault.
Right.
Right. And then this is where that time where I was vulnerable, now it comes up to haunt me. But that's
Right.
not what we're trying. If you can, and we talked about before, continually being connected, right? Part of being intentional in your relationship is to be connected. Once you continually have that connection with your mate, then you can be more vulnerable, right? But again, we talked about how hard it is once the relationship gets longer and longer, right? Because we have baggage, we have said things that maybe in the heat of the moment we can't take back. We have done things that were in our past that we're still holding on to.
And believe me that when your spouse says something bad about you, or just has a sharp tongue, it really cuts deep.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
someone else can say the same thing and you can just blow it off.
You don't care.
But when your spouse says something to you, it really hits home. And
Absolutely.
it's hard to overcome that time and time again. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to put that in, make a mental note. I'm not going to share this. I'm not going to get vulnerable. I'm going to keep this guard up. And then this just keeps you all from
Right.
getting close and deepening your relationship.
And so if you're doing that in relationships without marriage, then you remember that, and then you're carrying that from relationship to relationship, and you're not being able to show the true authentic self that you are to the next person, so they don't get the opportunity to get to know you on a deeper level because you are now scared and afraid to be vulnerable. But vulnerability, once you're in a marriage and in a relationship where you all have had the commitment to each other and you know that this is the person that you want to be with, then vulnerability should be a part of your relationship because it's essential. It's essential in continuing to get to know each other. We have to foster those things in the relationship that makes our relationships what we want them to be. And if we're not doing that, then we're leaving it up to chance, and then we're upset when our relationships turn out to be something that we don't want.
So if you haven't already, you should acknowledge your vulnerable side. You should get it out. You should be able to say, hey, this is a safe space. I want to be able to tell you this. I don't want to be judged, but I do want to come and share some things with you that I've been holding in maybe for so long, right? So if you can acknowledge your vulnerable side, that's a start, right? That's a start to be like, okay, I can let loose. I can share what I need to share with you, and it's a safe space, and then you can know how to receive that.
And sometimes we have to start small. Right. What's most important is that we have to build trust. You have to build trust with one another. You have to be able to trust the partner that you're with, knowing that they have your greatest interest and they want the greatest well-being for you. So we have to establish trust. You have to trust that person enough before you're willing to let those walls of feelings and vulnerability come down. All right. You have something for me?
I do have something for you.
All right. Hello, Vicky. And Vicky says,
Earl.
so for you guys, that means Earl is talking, not Vicky. Hello, Earl. Intimacy means into me see.
For sure.
The problem with that is that many of us have had so many hurts in the past that it is hard to trust another person. Absolutely.
Amen.
This is resolved with much prayer, communication, understanding that this is not the person that hurt me in the past, and counseling. Absolutely.
Ding, 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 ding,
Absolutely.
ding, ding.
And just,
For sure.
yes.
For sure.
And the definitely the biggest thing in that statement, Earl, is for us to realize that it's not the same person.
Right.
Right? It's not the so we
Even
can't
if they did the same event that hurt you in the past, it's still not the same person. So if someone did something to you in the past and you go, I know how this is going to end because this happened to me before and this is what happened. Not necessarily different person. Same event, the same type of event,
and it may
but
turn
it's a
out totally different.
person.
That's right. And you would hope to have a different relationship. And that's where a lot of relationships fall into the uh-oh category. Uh-oh, here I go again.
Yep.
Uh-oh, here we go again.
Yep.
And so we're doing that because we expect these outcomes. We expect the new partner to act like the old partner. But if we have shifted and changed and we have worked on ourselves and we have drawn the partner for whom we truly desire and that the partner that reflects who we are, then things should be different. The narrative does not have to be the same, but we have to be willing to trust someone else. We can't go into a relationship half of us. And we want the whole. We want them to give us the whole, but we're only giving half. I'm not going to share my feelings. I'm not going to get to know you on a deeper level. I'm not going to trust you, but I want you to do all those things with me, hoping that the relationship is going to become what I want it to be.
No, that just sounds funny. Just half of you.
Yeah.
But a lot of relationships end up like that.
Absolutely.
They're only getting half of each other because, like, nah, I'm not gonna share that.
And
I'm not gonna give you that part of me.
We
Why do we feel like we have to hold on to some part of ourselves and we can't be fully vetted in the relationship?
we go so long doing this that we don't even realize that we're doing it.
Okay.
We have become so good at hiding our feelings and suppressing our feelings because, as they say, right, people gaslight them, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, so I'm not going to put my feelings out there. So we wonder why relationships are not working because we're not being honest with ourselves, we're not being honest with our partner, we're not being authentic. How can I fall in love with you if I don't even know who you are?
Right.
How can you fall in love with me if you don't even know who I am, right? And part of one of the greatest things about being vulnerable is that not only does it foster closeness, but it's just knowing it brings on such an intimacy, such a sex appeal, such a
Because you
different
kinda
type of
bear in all.
relationship that
Oh,
you
it
go,
does.
wow,
Yeah.
that this is something that is their innermost feelings that they're sharing with me. Like, it makes you feel on a whole new level of where your relationship is.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
So
For sure. 'Cause this
you're
is
not
something-
being superficial. It's not just
Right.
the Jason on top, but it's the Jason at the bottom. It's the person at the bottom that people really want to get to know. And we can't be afraid to put ourselves out there for the person who we've chosen to be with for the rest of
I
our
was just going to
lives.
say that for the person that you chose.
Right, not
that-
everybody.
That you
See,
said
this
I
is-
do to, right? This is the person
Right.
that you said I do with. So, yeah, you need to come and bear all. You need to be able to be yourself and expose some parts that you don't want to really be out there. It's just like, okay, this is uncomfortable for me. And that's what vulnerability is, or being vulnerable, is being in a space that's really uncomfortable for you. And at that point, as I said, you're vulnerable because you can be hurt because you're about to share something that's very close to you and you're not good at it, right? So it's not going to come across and showing you in the best light. So it takes
it's something so deeply hurting that
you
just
may
talking
look
about
weak,
it,
right?
you
may look weak.
You may think that you look weak, or
Right.
you know that this is something that could be damaging if it's not handled in the right way. So we think of all kind of reasons not to be vulnerable with our mate.
Right. And then don't mistake vulnerability for being needy.
Right.
You're not being needy.
It's two different things.
Yes,
Just
yes.
like being vulnerable, we shouldn't attach vulnerability with being, something that is shameful. It's not. It's something that, you don't share with everyone. And so people who may be too forthcoming in the beginning and then they keep getting hurt is because sometimes we need to pull back a little bit, and that may even be needy, right? Sometimes we think sharing everything up front, clears the space. Sometimes it doesn't. If you haven't established trust with someone, there's certain things that you should not be sharing.
Right.
So but when we're talking about in marriage, that is an essential part of marriage, because this is something that brings you closer together. This is where your mate says they trust me enough to trust me with this information, and to know that I'm not going to hurt them with it.
There you go.
Right?
Even if we disagree on some things, you're not going to bring it up and try to
Absolutely. Absolutely. And,
hurt me.
and
That's
so
what I'm trusting you with.
this safe space,
Yeah.
this safe space.
Let
knowing-
that safe space stay in a safe space. Don't bring it back up when you get upset and you want to score some points by really hurting someone. And that's going to do so much damage to your relationship by doing that.
And to bring that up, Jason, as we talked about communication, right? How communication is key. Communicating effectively means that we're not saying things and doing things in our relationship that is detrimental to our relationship.
Right.
So if we get into a heated conversation, we have to learn how to back off and take a time out. Let's cool down. Let's retreat to our corners before we get to a point where we feel as though we have to say something negative, right?
And become disrespectful.
Exactly, because if this is the person that you truly love, and even though something may have been done or said that was hurtful, we don't want to play that tit for tat game. You don't want to say something that is going to tear your relationship up instead of bringing it closer together. That's why, sometimes it takes us time to learn how to communicate effectively, where we're not tearing down our relationship, we're actually building it up by step, brick by brick. And so that's what we mean by, sometimes we look at our relationship, we're like, oh, we're good, everything is good. But are we good all the way around? Because knowing the right things to do and doing the right things are two different things. And we talked about, last Friday, we had Veronica on, and she talked about how you would be shocked to realize how many couples cannot look each other in the eye.
Right.
And
we've witnessed this. So.
And the reason why is because that's being vulnerable.
Right.
Right.
When you're looking in somebody, it's almost like you can just look right into their soul, right? Because when you're looking at them, and you're looking much deeper than just them. You're looking into their eyes, and then you just get lost into that person.
And so most of the times, and Veronica was a counselor, and she said, you'd be surprised how hard it is for people to look each other in the eye. And the reason being is because you're in a counselor's office, right? You're at counseling, you're at coaching, you're at some place that you guys can't see eye to eye. And then for that person to say, well, look at each other. You're like, wait a minute, I came here with my defenses up. I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to go in. And now you want me to sit down and look at this person eye to eye, and it makes you vulnerable. It makes you remember the person that you fell in love with, the things about you. It brings you down to
once you get
wait a minute.
Right. So once you get past all the issues, right, it's just you two, right? So the part of touching and getting there with someone, touching and looking into their eyes and just remembering who they are, who you fell in love with, is what you're trying to get back to. Not necessarily the issue, because the issue can take care of itself if you two can get back on the same page.
And being able to talk to that person, right? So you're looking at your mate and you're expressing yourself. How can I tell you how I feel? And now I have to look you in the eyes. That's all vulnerable. I have to be vulnerable enough, because normally we want to talk to each other across the room. We want to yell at each other, or we want to be distant where I'm hollering and you're hollering, where no one's listening, but we're both talking, and that we don't have to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
Right? We can have our guards up. We're strong.
Right.
But as soon as we say, okay, well, let's calm down and let's share how we truly feel, then that's a vulnerable side. Nobody hey, I can't be vulnerable. I can't let that person see me this way. So that's why it's hard when you're in the position of in a counseling. But let's not get there. Let's start in our relationships where we can have vulnerability as a plus instead of a minus, where we can continue to grow in the areas that makes our marriage stronger, right? And that we're not tearing them down. So, we want to do things on a consistent basis that's going to uplift and show our relationship in the highest light.
right.
Oh.
Yep, we got another one. Earl back on the
All
the
right,
microphone.
Earl. You want to read it or you
No,
want me
go
to read it?
ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Earl says another problem is we live in a society that is so superficial, focusing on
Amen.
more that the outward person than the real you. This leads to superficial intimacy. Earl, we couldn't have said it better.
Gosh,
And
Earl
that's-
is on point tonight, boy. Gee.
Earl be studying before we
I
get
know,
here.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, he got a bag
Exactly.
of tricks, don't he? Yeah,
Exactly.
He knows some stuff.
And that's why when we talked about if you keep wondering why you are either having relationships or in marriages or in whatever you're experiencing, you keep saying, why do I keep getting in this type of relationship? Why can't I find this? It's because we're superficial.
Yep.
And we are attracting the person that they see.
Yeah.
They don't know who we are. They don't know because we're being superficial. We're being this facade of who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said, if you can't be the true authentic self, then you don't need to be dating. If you're at a
Oh, wait a
point,
minute. You just told folks not to date?
that's right. You need to
Because
work
if you don't
on
have
you.
yourself, right, because if you don't have yourself together, you're going to keep attracting the same mess you've always attracted.
Or I wouldn't say mess. I would just
Okay.
say you're going to keep attracting what maybe you do not want.
Mess.
So
But
I'm
you can
just,
clean it up, baby.
So I'm just saying, even in our marriages, right?
Right.
If we keep having the same problems and the same fights and the same issues, it's because we're not going deep enough. It's like,
We never
years
really
and
dealt,
years ago,
we
it
never
was-
dealt with the problem.
So Jason and I start arguing, just as an example, we talk about that last bag of chips. So who ate my last bag of chips, right? And so I get upset and we're arguing over the chips when the chips are not even the issue.
Right.
So we're being superficial. We're looking at the things. This is what triggered it, but that's not really the issue. What is the deeper
Right.
thing that we're going through?
Yeah.
And if we cannot draw connection with each other through being vulnerable, right? Then how can we have the intimacy that we truly desire? We can't have
We
that.
can have superficial intimacy, which what Earl said.
And it can't be one-sided.
Right.
You can't have one mate that trusts and believes in you and they're sharing, but you think that it's okay that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Then how does your partner feel? There's an imbalance there.
And you can feel when someone's not sharing with you. And
Or,
that- and
or
that
when
doesn't
you're
help
not deeply connected, like there's something that's deeper that they're hiding, or they don't trust me enough, right?
That's what I was
You
getting
don't
ready to say.
trust me enough.
You don't trust me enough to share.
Exactly, to just let your hair down and be who you really are. Show me all of the things, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, because I love you for who you are.
So you're sharing with me, but I'm not sharing with you.
Absolutely.
And so you feel like, okay, I bear it all. I love you, all your imperfections, everything. But I feel like you don't really love me because you never really share those innermost secrets with me. So how do you think the relationship goes? Because the other person does not feel that same type of love. You could say all day long how much you love them. You can buy them the things that you think that makes them happy. But if you don't share and you don't get vulnerable with them, they don't feel the love. Everyone everyone feels that. Everyone knows that you're not sharing. You're not going deep with me. So I don't feel like I have that part of you, that side of you, that level of understanding. So
And-
make sure that
And being vulnerable, go
I
ahead.
was just saying, just make sure that you're being vulnerable with your mate. And if you haven't, or you have, if you haven't, then have a safe conversation that leads to that. You may not be able to share the innermost secrets that you really don't want out there, but start with something small. And if you start with something small, then you can build up, right? So
That's what the whole relationship is, starting small and building up.
Right.
That's what your whole relationship should be. And
It is.
one thing about being vulnerable with anything in a relationship is that it has to be a safe space, right? You don't want to be judged. You don't want to feel judged. You don't want to be judged. You don't want commentary. You want your partner to listen. So if your partner is confiding in you something vulnerable, the best thing you can do is just to listen. Listen, 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 right? Don't give feedback unless it is requested. Don't give judgment. Don't say what you shouldn't do, or why did you do it. Our partner is confiding in us something that is very sensitive, that can be very hurtful. Just sometimes we just have to learn how to listen and just be there for the person without trying to solve the problem, give a response, uplift. Sometimes people just want to be heard. So we have to be that voice to say, okay, don't respond, just listen. Right?
Yeah, and also vulnerability brings fear. Work to overcome that. Work on sharing so you can get beyond that. So by talking, you'll get beyond that, and you won't be so frightful about, being vulnerable. And that's going to help you to build a strong relationship. So we always talk about communication, right? So yeah, we start with communication, but part of communication, like Tina said, is to be vulnerable.
And I know through our studies, plus in our coaching, that we find out that, we know it's no hidden secret, right? Like 50% of marriages end in divorce, right?
Right.
And it's because
but then 50% succeed.
so 52%.
52%.
So
succeed.
48 succeed, 52% to get divorced.
Okay.
So, which means we have a half and half chance of getting it right? But the point of that is that in those marriages that choose divorce is because it's a superficial marriage. They're not invested the whole person. They're half in and half out.
Right.
And they want the type of marriage that they think what marriage is. And when it becomes reality, they can't handle it because they are not honest with themselves and they haven't been honest with their partner. You cannot build a firm foundation in a relationship if you're coming in and half out. If I don't know who you are and your strengths and weaknesses, right? Because if I know your weaknesses, then we can work on them together. But if you feel as though showing me or telling me or revealing to me your weaknesses is going to make you weak, then you're going into the relationship all wrong in the first place. The whole point is to get stronger, right? I'm here to help you, to be a support for you, and you're here to be a support for me. That's the whole beauty of having a relationship with someone you can trust and love and build something with. So do we have another comment?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I just put one out there, but
all right. So go ahead. So I was just talking about, we have to, and so we wonder why marriages and even relationships are ending is because you're in a relationship with someone you really don't even know.
Right.
And so you're wondering what happened. What happened is that you didn't know them in the beginning. We're not building, giving ourselves time enough to trust the person. And then if we're married, you have to be 100% committed to your relationship.
Ooh, 100%
right?
committed.
100% committed to your relationship. That means that we're nurturing our relationship in a way that love, respect, dignity, and vulnerability, intimacy, those things are all welcomed in the relationship. And so we have to get back to a point of realizing that, relationships they're not magical. They just don't happen.
Like sure don't. You gotta work at this stuff.
We have to put something in.
You have to get this stuff.
If you want dinner, it's just not gonna show up on the table. You gotta do something. You gotta prepare something. So part of this is the preparation that we need to do to have the relationships that we want. But being vulnerable is important. And if you feel as though you can't be vulnerable in your relationship, then that should let you know that you have a superficial relationship or that is something that you need to work on, right? So am I being vulnerable in my relationship? Is my spouse being vulnerable? If we're not, then maybe that's an area in our relationship that we need to work on that can help bring us closer, that can help increase our intimacy, that can help our connection, doing things that's nurturing. Let's discuss, let's talk, let's continue, like as we said, don't just have date night where you guys are both there but you're doing something different. Let's make this time together count, right?
That's right. So let me see what Vicky has here.
How to recover from the fear of vulnerability.
So
Vicky, is that a question?
Yeah, that's kind of a question. So how do you recover? Well,
it doesn't say how do. It says how to recover. So yep. I don't know if there was a response to what I said or if it's a question.
Yep. Well, we'll just take it. So fear, we have fear of betrayal and rejection is the most common things that we fear. So we don't want to be betrayed and we don't want to be rejected. So if you start to talk about those two, that will eliminate a lot and ease that tension when it comes to being vulnerable. So
it comes from understanding yourself, understanding your partner,
Yes, how do we?
and then each one of us starting to understand the person we're in the relationship with.
Yep.
Right? So we have to be able to take the time to say, you know, we all have past hurts. We all have past hurts. In this marriage, in the previous relationships, we all have past hurts because that's how we learn. And so the fear of it is that we have to realize that fear isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
We make it real by the power we give it.
Right.
Fear is, we know the acronym, right? And different people have say different things, but mine is, false emotions appearing real. And so the fear is that I am going to be hurt or betrayed like I was hurt and betrayed in the past. And part of that is knowing and understanding your partner that you have now, and not putting that same expectations on them that you've brought from your old relationship. The fear only has power in what we give it. So to overcome fear is to realize that whatever transpired in that relationship is not this relationship. Let me take the time, one, to get to know myself, to get to know what part I played in that. Two, to get to know the spouse that I'm married to, and for both of us to understand, respect each other enough to talk, right? When we talk about you have to foster your relationship, you have to do things to nurture your relationship. Part of that nurturing is having talks, little talks. The more and more we talk, the more we get to know each other, the more comfortable we feel with each other, the more we want to share, and the more trust is built.
And
That's how we do it. We
that's how we
overcome
come there.
fear by building the trust in the relationship that we have now, trusting the partner that we have in front of us, right? Knowing that we cannot give fear power.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, if we don't know, we know about the law of attraction, right? What we think about, we bring about. So the things that we don't want, that we're constantly focusing on, we're bringing that into our relationships. So only focus on the things that you want. If you want to have closeness, connection, intimacy, respect, let's think on those things. How can I put this in my relationship? And that's why Jason and I have put together that book, right? Is to help us to see things that maybe we haven't looked through those lens before. A different perspective, right? I can only express what I know. But if I get the perspective of someone else, then it allows me to see through their eyes and say, wait a minute, I've never looked at it that way before. So putting out tools that can help couples to see things that maybe one, be knowledgeable about, or two, helping them see things from a different perspective, right? And I often tell Jason, before I jump the gun, I put myself in your shoes. I want to understand how you think before I base an assumption thinking that I know everything, right? Because we only see things through our own eyes. Sometimes it takes you to look through the eyes of your mate to say, how can I see things from their view so that I can understand it better? And sometimes it just takes talking to your mate. Talking.
And listening,
Excuse me.
listening, and listening.
Yeah, and which I often say sometimes, and when we're having those intimate conversations, we're actually talking, and so we have to talk to listen, not talk to respond, or talk to judge, and that's building that safe space where your mate and you feel so comfortable with each other, where the trust has been established, that fear from the past, it no longer even exists.
So that's what I just put it down in
And
the
I hope
comments
that
too.
wasn't too long.
No, it was right on point too.
So
but yeah, that's how you get over.
very good question, Vicki. Thank you, because so many people struggle with overcoming fear.
Right.
And the biggest thing to me that conquers fear is doing something.
Is action for sure.
Is action.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so, like if you have fear about being vulnerable, then the action is to talk. Right. One, I have a safe space, and you know how you feel. You feel comfortable and you feel safe in a safe space. So you don't feel like now you feel like you can say what you need to say.
And it may even take for you guys to establish some ground rules.
Oh yeah, for sure. You definitely need
when-
ground rules for this safe space.
Right. You know, when we're
So you come-
talking, I don't want to be judged. But you know,
Exactly.
again, but talking comes from building trust. So,
right. But
you know,
but then you start to share and you let them know first off, I'm not going to betray your trust.
absolutely.
Right. So now I'm at ease. Okay. So what I'm about to share, you're not going to betray my
I know.
trust.
I know that
And
it's not going to be
right,
absolutely.
and you're not going to use it back against me, right? So that ease my tensions there as well. And rejection, don't reject me based on what I have inside that I'm trying to get out. If I'm trying to be vulnerable, this is really going to make your relationship better. So don't reject me. Listen to what I'm saying, and that goes for both sides, right? Listen to each other, and that's how you kind of ease that tension. That's how you overcome fear for vulnerability.
Right. Okay. So I think we've said a lot of stuff. You know, I think a relationship that has vulnerability is healthy. It's healthy because when we talk about we want a healthy relationship, well, sometimes we don't know what that looks like.
Right.
Right. And so if we've never had a model or something to go by, a blueprint, a roadmap of what is a healthy relationship, we know how we feel. We know what we want, but sometimes we don't know how to get there. So a healthy marriage has vulnerability in it, and it grows over time. I don't think there's anything that I don't feel comfortable enough to share with my mate. So we have to get to that place where everything that I know about me, he should know about me. And people may question that,
Right.
but that's
That's
the
their
true me.
question.
If you love yourself, and I'm sure, and I want to be the authentic Tina Marie, then I cannot be something different, because that means I'm trying to be two different things in one body. And so I'm creating conflict within myself.
Right.
So we have to be able to understand that a healthy relationship has effective communication. We have to learn how to do that, right? Without damaging our relationship. It has vulnerability. It has respect, which means that I respect you enough not to say things to you just to hit you below the belt. Like, that should be off limits.
Thank you very much.
Right?
I really appreciate that.
Right? So, Vicky says, so do I need to stop giving away my power? Yes, Vicky. Yes, we all do. We all do. And you know what? The biggest thing that gives away your power is anger. So anger comes up. Then the fear says, hey, come on over here with me. We can team up. We got fear and anger, and we can just, and they're just zapping you of your power.
Yep.
We have the power to create the relationships we want.
Yep.
We have the power. That song, he knew it.
Yeah.
I've got the power.
100%.
So we have the power in everything that we do, especially our relationships. So let's start building them up and not tearing them down.
And you know what? Being vulnerable don't make you lose your power. It makes you powerful, right? Because it's something about being able to share the innermost
Absolutely.
secrets.
It makes,
That's a
what I
strength.
said. When you see that your mate is being vulnerable with you,
Mm-hmm.
it gives them a power to say, wow, I can share this and not be ashamed or be fearful of being hurt. And your mate has the same power. Like, wow, our relationship has really grown because you entrust in me enough to share this information. So it just power all over the place.
Yes.
Absolutely, Rita Lindsay, you got the power.
You got the power.
All right. So hey, Rita Lindsay. So you guys, if you have not downloaded the ebook, go download the ebook. It is from Jason and myself. It is just some simple ways to awaken the love and intimacy in your relationship. And so this is one of the things. And so we want to start doing things in our relationships that demonstrate healthy relationships, that show healthy relationships, so that we can change the face of marriage. Because marriage is a wonderful thing. if we're learning how to do it right, and that's anything, right? Just
If
like
we're
cooking.
doing it right, it's a wonderful
It's just
thing.
like cooking. I can
Right.
cook something, and if I don't
Marriage
pay
doesn't have
attention,
to be stressful. Marriage doesn't have to be unhappy. Marriage
Life,
doesn't have
life,
to be
exactly.
miserable. Marriage is a wonderful thing when it's done right, and it's up to you
When
to
we-
decide on what you want to do.
when and that's what we mean by done right is when it's done the way that we want it, because no relationship is the same.
Within your relationship with you two.
What you want.
Yes.
What do you want? Because it's not going to happen just by you holding it inside and wishing and wondering why you don't have it. You have to put forth some energy, effort, time,
Yep.
and consideration.
Stop
and
looking at
all
those
Fairy
marital
tales.
marital programs on TV about and all that drama and all this other stuff. That stuff, boy, wreck a relationship in a minute. You
we
start
have to be
internalizing that
careful
stuff.
what
Yeah,
we're
stay
putting
away.
into our consciousness
Stay
and
away
what
from
we
that
think
kind
it
of
is.
stuff. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But marriage is a wonderful thing, and so
If
we
you
know
must say
it
so
because I can say so myself, and we shouldn't take advice from people who do not have a happy relationship. Right? We there's coaches out there for marriage, and they're not married, never been married. I'm gonna tell you, knowing and doing and being is two different things.
Right.
I can know how to ride a motorcycle in my mind, but if I've never ridden one, yeah, I don't care how much I think I know about it, how much I studied it. If I'm not riding it, then I truly don't know. I don't know the balance. I don't know the power. I don't know the torque, all of that. So we're telling you that marriages can be exactly what you want it to be if you are intentional in it.
Right. So
And I think
that's right. So what we've learned, being vulnerable is attractive, right? Because and then it brings you closer.
it brings closeness.
Yeah, which is something, doing the research for this and everything was something that was surprising. That's like, does it? But it does. Have you ever had one of those good conversations, those intimate conversations, and then afterwards you guys just feel so much closer? That's what being vulnerable
That's part of
is.
dating, right? That's
That's
part of
part-
stuff.
yes.
Getting to know your partner during the dating process, and that's why you're more attracted to them, because you're sharing. You're sharing information. So now let's take our marriages to a different level and let's be more vulnerable. And so it shall create more intimacy in which we're seeking.
So you saying if I become more vulnerable, we can have more intimacy?
My definition of intimacy may not be your definition of intimacy.
But if I give this vulnerability a try, I might get
Give it a
more
try.
intimacy. I'm just asking for a friend.
Tell your friend you got to try it out.
All right, friends.
Hey, Mikey,
Yeah.
try it. You
Hey,
might like it.
friends, I'm just gonna say, get this vulnerability thing a try.
One of those words that keep tying your tongue up, right?
I've said it so much. Yeah, give it a try and see how it works out. See if it can bring more intimacy in your relationship. I already know the answer to that. So
All right, guys. So, again, if you're viewing it later, feel free to answer the question. Feel free to give us your thoughts, your comments. I love the responses that we've gotten tonight. We hope to get more from you guys. We hope to impact marriages all over the world. So as we
please
say,
share, please share, please share.
like, subscribe, and share. And as always, we're in it to win it. Love you guys.
Love you. See you next week.